Okay, to start things off, you got to pick a dozen to bet on. So we'll just do the first dozen, 1 through 12, and we'll put 1 unit on the first dozen. We'll see where it goes. And it loses. So now we're going to bring in our dummy betters. You don't want everybody on the same number in the sequence. Stagger them a little bit. So now we're going to move the first dozen to the second number in the sequence. It'll be a $10 bet. And the new dummy betters are going to start off with 1 unit, $5 bets on the second and third dozens. Lands on the third unit. We're going to win as long as it doesn't hit the 0 or double 0, which will happen sometimes. But now that we landed on the third dozen, that one starts over at 1 unit. And the second and first dozen each get bumped up to the next number in the sequence. So it'll be a $15 bet on the first dozen and a $10 bet on the second dozen. Still hitting the third dozen. So again, the third dozen is going to start over on the sequence. Go back to 1 unit and bump the first and second dozen up to the next number in the sequence. So I believe it'll be it's a $20 bet on the first dozen, 15 on the second dozen. It's hard to keep track in your head, so you can do it on paper. You can bring paper to the table, or if you do it on a computer, it's easier to keep track of like this. The first dozen won it. So now the first dozen is the one that's going to start over. 1 unit on the first dozen and bump the second and third dozen up to the next number in the sequence. One higher than what they were before. So it'll be 20 on the second dozen and 10 on the third dozen. And it lands back on the third dozen. So now let's say we want to close out our bets. We want to walk away. We're not going to bet on the third dozen anymore. He's going to stand up, walk away hypothetically, and we're just going to continue the first and second dozen bets to the next number in the sequence. So it'll be the second number in the sequence for the first dozen, $10 bet, and the fifth loss in a row for the middle dozen, so that was a $30 bet. We didn't win, so bump them up one more time to the next number in the sequence. That middle dozen is losing 6 times in a row now. If we don't land on this one, which we win the first one, so that one closes out. First dozen has left the table. Now it's just the second dozen. He's already lost 6 times in a row. I don't go any more than 7 losses. You can go to as many as your bankroll can handle. I just like to draw the line at 7 losses in a row. It's not very likely that you'll get there, but we hit it, seventh roll without hitting the middle dozen, and we won that. So we closed out all 3 of our dummy betters. And we made $65 in that little section. Not a bad profit.